This is Gemara Sanhedrin Daf Samach Beis, and we're holding on. Samach Aleph Amud Beis. We're in the middle of the wide lines at the Simin. At the Simin, approximately 8 lines into the wide lines. Ve'amar Abaye, and we pick it up from Abaye, in which Abaye continues sharing. Mina Amin Allah, says Abaye, from where do I know the Tanan that we learned in the Mishnah? Ha'ovid avoidis kachavim, one who worships his idols, echad ha'ovid, one who worships his v'chulu, continues, one who pours, one who does the libations, etc. Says the Gemara, my love, that what does the Mishnah mean when it says that echad ha'ovid me'ava u'me'yira? That what does it mean, echad ha'ovid me'ava u'me'yira? Says the Gemara, 1 second. Rava Amar Lacha, like in the B'taras of Yirmiyah, does not mean like Rav Yirmiyah said, which we just had a few lines earlier in the Gemara. Says the Gemara, Amar Abaye, says Abaye, Mina Amidallah, Titania. I'll tell you where this is all coming from. Lo tishtachave Elohem, says the pasuk. Do not bow down to them. Lohem yatam mishtachave avaltam mishtachave. Lo adam kama yischat, to them don't bow. If you could bow down a person like yourself, Yachal, I would think, Afilu never Haman, even someone who's worshipped like Haman. Tambalaymar, says the Torah of Eloisa of Dame, should not worship them. So says Abaye, Haman meir ahavin evad. Haman was being worshipped even out of Yira, and yet what do we see? We see it's still forbidden. Rava, and Rava's going to respond, Kahaman v'lo Kahaman, come, and you akum. He himself is avodah zara. V'lo Kahaman, aleham, and Haman meira. V'achalav meira. That Haman is meira, and here it is not out of Yira, but rather out of creating it into a god. V'amar Abaye, says Abaye, I'll bring you another raya. Continuing Abaye, that any form of serving, even serving a person, will create such an issue. Mana amin Allah, from where do we know? The Tanya we learned in a brisa. Kayin Mashiach be'avodas kavim. A Kayin that was anointed, who unintentionally serves an idol, explains Rashi. Rabbi Yomer explains Rabbi Vishigyas Maisa. Rabbi says he has to bring a chatas if it was done b'shogig. Chachamim Mrim, say the Chachamim, he has to bring a chatas only behelem davar if it is done through an act of helem, through an act of lack of knowledge. Vishavan, they both agree. Shabisi'iram ki yachid. The Rabbanan and the Chacham both agree that the Kayin Mashuach has to bring a carbon just like a singular person. V'shavin she'in mevi Hashem talui. They agree doesn't have to bring it Hashem talui. End of Brisa. Says the Braye, Hai shigas maisa da'akom echidami. What is this case of a shigas maisa? What is this case that we are referring to? Says the Gemara, ikasavar, if referring to Beis HaKnessesu, if referring to Vishtachav Eloi, if referring to a building that was a shul and he bowed down towards it, and then he realized, guess what, it wasn't a shul, but rather it was a Beis Akum. There's no chatos. Harili b'l'shamayim. He had good intentions. He thought he was bowing down to Hashem. Elo, rather, in the last line, the Chazad and Darta Vishtach Valai. The case must be that he saw a statue of the king and he bowed down to it, and then he realized afterwards it was an idol. So in this case, there's no chatos. Why? If he bowed down with the realization, with the mindset, thinking that this statue was a god, then he's going to be a chayim misa. The top of Samach Beis Amud Aleph, and if he did not accept it upon himself as a god, says the Gemara, like lamu, then bowing is nothing. Elalav me'ava u'me'yera. Rather, says the Gemara, it must be, it's both out of ava and a yira. He knew that he's bowing down to an idol, but he thought it was mutter. But if he was only doing it out of love or out of fear, so the Kayin knew that he was doing an Aveira. Therefore, this is not a Helam Davar, but rather it's a Shaygeg. And therefore, what do we see? We see that the mistake that he made was that he thought out of Av and Yir it's okay. And that's going to be the case that we're saying there's going to be a Chi of Carbon. What's Rava responds? Rava Amr Lacha says, Rava, lie, that's not the case, but rather, Aimer Mutter, you made a mistake, you thought it's Mutter. Aimer Mutter! I know Helam Davar. That's a case of Helam Davar. Says the Gemara, Aimer Mutter Legamri. The case is where he fully thought it was Mutter. Helam Davar. It's a case of Helam Davar, Kiyom Mixas Ubitol Mixas. He holds part of it and he negates part of it, and he knows that it's Aser, but he only thinks it applies to certain parts of the Aveira. Says Rava, that's going to be a partial, a quasi Omer Mutter, and that's going to be the case upon discussion. Says the Gemara, after discussing the rise of Abaya, the rebuttals of Rava, continues the Gemara. Tani Rav Zakkai Kamed Rav Yechon. Rav Zakkai says in the name of Rav Yechon, Ziveach v'kiter v'nisech v'shtachavaya behelam echad. If he does all these different acts in one act of unawareness, in a chayiv alach, that's only chayiv one. Amar Rav Yechon responds, Poi, go out, Tani lebra. Teach this outside. It's an incorrect halacha. So Amar Rav Abba, Had Amar Rav Zakkai is machlokes Rav Yossi v'Rabban Nasan. The Tanya Havara lelav yatsa. Havara kindling is a negative commandment. Divri Rav Yossi v'Rav Nasan Aimer lechalik yatsa. It is singled out that it's a different kind of iser, and to teach that if you different malachas, one act of helim, then he's chayav multiple chatayis. So says Rav Abba, Leman Damar Havara Lelav Yatsa, and this is a famous machlokes that we had in the Gemara in Shabbos. According to Man Damar, that says that it is Lelav, that it's there to teach a separate Aveira, and therefore Ishtachavaya is Name Lelav Yatsa. Therefore Ishtachavaya will be the same. Whereas the Man Damar Havara Lechalig Yatsa, Ishtachvan Nami Lechalig Yatsa. So says the Gemara, this machlokes Rav Yossi and Rav Nasan will be the same machlokes over here, how we view Hishtach Havaya. But asks the Gemara on the last narrow line, 1 second. Meis maskiv la Rav Yosef. Dilma adkan l'kamer Rav Yossi asa. Maybe the Rav Yossi's din. Rav Yossi's din of Havara Lelav Yatsa. Maybe that was a din dafka over there by Hilchos Shabbos. As we move on to the first white line, says the Gemara, Hasam Havara Lelav Yatsa dinafka le chilik melachais me'achas me'heina. Because maybe he learns out chilik melachais from elsewhere, and that's really the sugya over there, Masechah Shabbos. The Tanya explains the Gemara, Baruch Ato Adino Yelina Melchelam. The Tanya explains the Gemara, Rav Yossi Aimer. Says Rav Yossi, V'asei me'achas me'heina. From the pasuk we learn Pam Shechayv Achas Al Kulan Rechayv, one on many. Pam Shechayv Al Kol Achas Achas, other times Rechayv on each and every one. V'amar Rav Yonis on my time. Dear Rav Yossi, what is the reason of Rav Yossi D'chsev? The Torah says the pasuk, V'asei me'achas me'heina. And it will do from one of them, teaching us achas me'achas heina me'heina, which is what? Achas she'heina ve'heina she'achas, which is what? Achas shemin me'achas shem. Achas is shemin. Me'achas is shem. Me shemin. So one is that he wrote the whole word shemin. Me'achas is he wrote shem, the 2 letters of shemin. Heina avos. What is the singular? Is the avos malachas. Me'heina is told us. Achas she'heina is what? Zadin Shabbos Shigus Malachais, Heina Shiacha, Shigus Shabbos Zadin Malachais. So again, just to chazer over, and this is an intricate sugya we learned in Masechah Shabbos, which is there are times that you're chayiv for one, and the times that you're chayiv in each and every act. Acha Shiheina Ichan Shiacha, Zadin Shi Shabbos Shigus Malachais, Shigus Shabbos Zadin Malachais. If you didn't know what Shabbos at all, then you're only going to be a chayiv one. If you knew it Shabbos, you didn't know malachis or aser, then you'd be a chayiv in each every one. So suggest the Gemara, maybe Rav Yossi's din, that the special din of Havara Lelav Yatsa is dafka over there by Hilchos Shabbos. But by us, which we do not learn out, we do not learn out from anywhere else. The Kuli Alma, because everyone agrees, so then maybe everyone will agree. Meaning, the Gemara suggests that maybe the Machlekes Rav Yosi and Rav Nosson over there, Mesachas Shabbos, could be transcribed to the Malachas over here. So it answers the Gemara, maybe not. Maybe bidavka over there by Shabbos, we have a different Makar teaching us the multiple chiyuvim. That's when the extra Havara comes to teach us that l'chalik yatsa. But maybe by us not. Everyone's going to agree that ishtachava l'chalik yatsa. Everyone's going to agree that if someone does the different types of service to avodah zara in one act of helen, then he's going to have to bring numerous chatois. So says the Gemara, chiluk melachos to avodas chavin nami tepik le me'achas mehina. Says the Gemara, wait, maybe a similar drasha that we know from Hilchos Shabbos, we can learn over here by avodah zara. That what? Achas zvicha me'achas. One act of slaughtering me'achas, simin echad. Achas is zvicha. Me'achas is what? Simin echad. Slaughtering only through one of the two simanim. Heina is avos. Zivuach, akiter, nisach, v'shachavaya. Those are all going to be the avos. Me'heina is toldos, which is what? Shavar, makal, lefanev. Someone breaks the stick in front of the zara. Achashieina, one which is many, is what's not enough as chamishigas avodos. You didn't know the different avodos are aser. Heina shiachas is what? Shigas avodos. But kavim is adon avodos. You didn't know that avodah zara was aser. So says the Gemara, maybe the exact same level of limud that we have over there by Hilchos Shabbos, we can apply to us. Says the Gemara, hi, shigas akom, hechi tummy. Says the Gemara, 1 second. How is it shaykh to have a shoygeg in our case of avodah zara? What did the guy think? We got to climb into his mind and figure this out. If he thought, let's go into the case. Meaning when he uses broad terms, it sounds like it makes sense. Now, if we play it out practically, says the Gemara, we're going to run into an issue. We thought the place was a shov v'shachbel and he bowed it. Then Nachma really v'shamayim. Then his heart is towards Hashem. The Chazah rather says the Gemara Chazah on the dart of his sagilei. He saw a statue of the king and he bowed to it. So says the Gemara, if he bowed down to accept upon it himself as an avodah zara mezidu, it's a straight up act of avodah zara. Then loy klamu. Then he did not do anything. Ella rather says the Gemara, me ahava umeyera. Rather, says the Gemara, the pasuk refers to one who bowed down to avodah zara out of love and out of fear. And then again, this is mamish chazar. Ella, the case must be ba'omer motor tifsha to buy minei Rav Mirav Nachman helam zev zebi adamahu tifsha deina chayav alachas v'varav mir lechayav one. Says the Gemara, no raya. Why not? Alekasham. But tifshait. This is not a kasha. Tifshait. Okay, so what's bothering you? You're bothered that we're going to answer Rava's kasha, so answer Rava's kasha. Says the Gemara, 3 lines to the bottom. Are these psukim? Achas and Meheina. Says Gemara, 1 second. Are these psukim talking about the Zara at all? Tilachik sev b'mashiach par u'b'nasi soyer. B'yachid kisva v'sira. Says the Gemara, by me achas. What does it say? By the kohen who was anointed regarding bringing a par for a chatas, ubenasi bringing a sayer, ubeyachid kisva useira. Whereas when it comes to avodah zara, Tanya b'shavin shebesira ki yachid. They agree that we're talking about a case of a se'ira, a she-goat, just like a regular person. Says the Gemara, you're right. V'sulay midi, a similar lasha that we had the other day, and there's nothing more that can be said about this. We have 2 weighted stadim, therefore we don't have a raya either way. Continues the Gemara, Ki Asrav Shmuel Bar Yehuda Amar, and this is sort of like a Ika Di Amri, a second Lashon, as we turn over to Zam Chubezim and Beis. Hachi Tana Kamei, this is what was learned in front of, this is what Rav Zakkai learned in front of him, in front of Rav Yochanan, as follows. Chaymer b'Shabbos b'Shar Mitzvahs. That Shabbos has a chumrah over other mitzvahs, and Chaymer b'Shar Mitzvahs b'Shabbos. And Shar Mitzvahs has a chumrah over Shabbos. Chaymer b'Shabbos, that what Shabbos asay. Shabbos is, and I say, Ishtayim is two Aveiros, Bela Mechad, done in one act of forgetting. Chayev al kol achas v'achas, then he's chayev for each and every chatos, ma she'ein kein b'shar mitzvahis. Whereas on the other side, Chayev b'shar mitzvahis, what? Sheb'shar mitzvahis, shagag b'loy miskavein, if it's an act of shoyeg, chayev, ma she'ein kein b'Shabbos, which is by Shabbos. End of Brisa. So now, classical Gemara sense, let's dive into and understand the intricacies of this Brisa, 6 lines from the top on Samach Beis Amud Beis. Omar Mar, Chaymer b'Shabbos, that what Shabbos asay shtayim v'chulu. Explains the Gemara, Hechi Dami, what is the case? Ilim David Ksiro Techina. If the case is that the one who did the Aveira did an act of cutting and grinding and one act of forgetfulness, it can't be. Why? The Kavasei Gavi Shar Mitzvah is what would be a comparable case to Chachila Vidam, Chatarti Mechayev, Chatarti Mechayev. Both of them have 2 chiyuvim, so there's no difference. Ella says the Gemara, Gavi Shar Mitzvahs Tina Chayev Alachas. By Shar Mitzvahs you only chayev 1 chatos, is what? Hechi Dami Dachal Chelev V'Chelev. Is a case where he ate forbidden fats and he ate forbidden fats again. I mean, the same Aveira. The Kavasei Gavi Shabbos, Tavik Ksira, Ksira. He did the same act of harvesting and the same act of forgettingness. So says the Gemara, again, Nachamo, there's no chilik. So the Gemara is trying to figure out. And that's what we saw in Amud Aleph. Paitani lebra. Yirechla told her, if Zakkai, go teach outside. So says the Gemara, what is going to be this case that you can have a difference? Responds the Gemara, Maikosha. Maybe I'll tell you, Mashenkim b'shar mitzvahs is what? The difference is going to be with regarding to avodas kachavim, worshiping an idol, according to Rav Hami. That what? Amar Rav Hami. Ziviach v'kitar v'nisach v'alamechad einay chayev ela achas. You only chayev 1. So what are we going to say? We're going to say that there you only chayev 1, whereas by Shabbos you can be chayev multiple times. So ask the Gemara, why would Rav Zakkai say? Why did Rav Yochanan tell Rav Zakkai, Pok Tani Lebra? Responds the Gemara, Lai Misukma Lei Bavodas Kachavim. No, it can't be. Why? The Ketani Seifa, Chayim B'Shar Mitzvah, B'Shar Mitzvahs, Shagi B'Lei Mischayev, Chayev, Shagi B'Lei Miskavin, V'Zchavim, Echidami. So says the Gemara, and this is the 3rd time on this daf that we circle back around to the exact same issue. What is a Shaygig B'Avodah Zara? Says the Gemara. Hopefully you sound familiar by now. If the case is basically really good intentions. The Chazan Darta statue of King Visagid lay. He thought it's a god. Mezid we look at Klamu. Ela me avam here. Sonich lebayder mechayvel rava demar pater Michael Meimar. Says the Gemara, as we already saw 3 times. El ba'omer mutter. So finally says the Gemara, Mashenkin b'Shabbos. Now, what is in the contrast to Shabbos is the pater legamri. But wait, I can look up Ayminei Rav Miriam Nachlan Elam Zavazela Ilchiyuva Chad Ilchiyuva Tarti pater legamri leka lemanda Omar. There's no one that holds you completely pater. Says Mar, wait, my kusha, why not? Maybe within the Brisa we could split the cases. V'shagag b'loy miskavein. Because Roiku Ubalai. Maybe the case is a shaygi without any intent. How could it be on any intent? That he thought it was Roik. He thought that which is in his mouth was saliva and he swallowed it. And then it actually was Chaylev. Mashenki b'Shabbos to potter his watch. And it's kind of like Bias Atolosh. And by mistake, the Chatach has a mechuber. He cut off the that was attached to the round. Potter, says the Gemara, but in that case you're not Potter. I'm not going to Shmuel the Amar. I say you are Potter. I'm asking b'chalavin by rayus. Then you're going to be chayiv. Why? Shekein nehen. Whereas a special and unique halacha, and as much as Shabbos is usually more chamer, but misasek b'Shabbos, special halacha you're Potter. Why? Meleches machsheves asra taira, and this will not be meleches machsheves. But the Gemara is circling back to the same issue. So why in the world did Rav Yechon tell Rav Zaki poktani lebra? Concludes the Gemara 4 lines to the bottom. Rav Yechon the Tamei de Lamuka Masnita Reisha v'Chatayim v'Seif v'Chatayim. He doesn't want to split the price in half. Then Rav Yechon Ma'adv'Tagul leChavas levi the Chatanim of Lino Mane Basrei leBei Mesusa. I'll carry his clothes leBei Mesusa. Rav Yechon B'Dafka didn't want to split the two into two halves. Therefore, he will not take such explanation, and that's the reason why he said Poktan lebra.